Welcome and good evening. Thanks for joining us for Farmers After Hours, Boosting Your Bottom Line, brought to you by the Michigan Farm Bureau Family of Companies, the Michigan Foundation for Agriculture, and Greenstone Farm Credit Services. We are so pleased to have three farmers joining us from across the state this evening. But first, I'll have my partner, Amber, introduce herself, and then we'll start with Charles, then John, and then Greg have them introduce themselves.
Okay, thanks, Kate. Hi, everyone. My name is Amber Eklund. I'm the Public Relations Specialist for Greenstone Farm Credit Services. I've been in this role for just over a year now, and I help organize different webinars, different events, and different outreach with Greenstone. And I work out of the East Lansing office, and I live in St. John's, Michigan. So, Charles, you're up.
Hi, everyone. I'm Charles Loveland. I live in Jackson. A little bit of background on myself. I graduated from Michigan State in 2014. 3 years ago, I ended up buying my first farm, 60 acres. Currently, I run a diversified cash crop operation with my dad, and then we also have a small registered herd of Hereford cattle.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, I'm John Streeter. I live in Bayport, Michigan. Here I cash crop farm and do hay and straw. We grow corn, sugar beets, wheat, soybeans, and of course hay. Been doing this since I went to Michigan State in 2000, 2001 into the tech program, and I've been farming ever since. That's pretty much what we got going on here for now.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Shooks?
Yeah, hi, I'm Greg Shooks, and I live in Central Lake, Michigan. It's a little bit farther north in Antrim County. I'm a fourth-generation farmer on my family's 1,100-acre farm where we grow cherries, wine grapes, and a little bit of hay and alfalfa, but we've most recently branched off into our wineries and doing wine and tasting now. So we are diversifying and removing, I suppose. So that's us.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen and Amber, for taking time to be a part of the series this evening. We're excited to reach some participants this evening who have an opportunity to ask us questions anonymously. If there are folks who are live with us, feel free to type those questions in the Q&A box on the side of your screen. I'll go ahead and read those as they come in and ask our panelists who've graciously agreed to participate to answer those questions. In the meantime, a couple questions that have percolated over time here for us would be, gentlemen, can you take a few minutes and talk about what innovative or fundamental practices you instilled on your farms to enhance your financial stability?
I can take
jump
that.
At once.
I can go on that. A big thing for me has been finding premium markets. So along with the cash crop operation, we have a big part of the farm. I work with my dad quite a bit. We do a lot of hay, and so to me that is a premium market, and we sell to a lot of horse farms down towards the Ann Arbor and Detroit area. Along with that, you know, we've pushed into the registered herd with Hereford, so we're selling registered replacement females and bulls. And then if they don't meet the quality of replacements, we actually do have a very in-demand beef business, and that has grown exponentially in the past couple of years. And so just the diversification and kind of, rather than being a price taker, we've been a price setter, and that's been a big contribution to making a financially stable farm. And then I think innovating too, like my farm has a lot of rolling hills and a lot of wildlife pressure. And so I've changed my management from going from row crops at my home farm to really pushing the boundaries of double crop forages and also pasture and hay. to maximize ROI on those acres.
I guess on my farm, my main sources of income, or the biggest income drivers, are hay and straw, my hay and straw business. Should say we're doing 2,000 acres of hay and several thousand acres of wheat straw. And we do that with local dairies, as well as I have a horse market influence as well. But we've streamlined all of our production through the 3x4 big square bale, and as a way to stay in the horse market and cater to the smaller farms, we put in a Steffen's hay conversion system, which takes and cuts the big squares into small squares. We put them on a pallet, and that goes into feed stores in the South, whether it's Carolinas, Florida, all down south, whoever's interested in buying. I mean, we have relationships that I've built over the years. But also even the diversity in the straw, where there's dairy straw, there's road construction straw, there's straw that fits for horse farms. It's just finding the right fit for each product and knowing where to go with it, knowing how to maximize your value of what you have. It's putting the right peg into the right hole all the time, trying to get the most out of everything that you have. But with our cropland, we were able to rotate, the alfalfa and mixed fields with sugar beets and corn as a way to give the land a break, but also still achieve top end yields on the rest of it when it's not in hay. And also working with the dairy farms and whatnot in the area, there's opportunities to use their manure sources for nutrients and things like that. It's just working with everyone to make yourself better and finding the right fit for each situation.
So we've done a couple of different approaches to our direct marketing through our winery, but also vertically and horizontally directed to our cherry operation. We run a smaller receiving station where we're handling fruit from other growers, where we then begin preserving them for the maraschino cherry market. And we also run a small little chemical warehouse, a satellite operation in partnership with Wilbur Ellis. So the goal is that they buy the chemicals through us and drop the cherries through us, and hopefully maybe pick up a bottle of wine on their way out. But we've also added our value-added process. So that would be we make and ferment and bottle all of our wines from our vineyard right on site. Moving into the agritourism sector, to the economy as well. We actually, 3 years ago, started this process, but to do that, we essentially removed 50% of our company. We used to be livestock producers. So we used to run around 550 head of Holstein steers, and that was at our largest point. And that continued to not be as important to our business, I guess, to put it the right way, and it just gradually kind of slipped away from us and slipped away from the interest of the farm, mainly for what we felt is location. We are quite a bit farther north, so we were fighting a lot of freight and a lot of costs with that. So we basically decided to remove ourselves from that. Built a tasting room in our wine production facility in an old cattle barn. So we have done that. They are literally parking. Our parking lot is in our old feedlot area. So it's been quite a large changeover from our operation the past definitely 3 years. The past 5 years is when the planning process took place. So it's really kind of trying to figure out what fits your farm, what fits your area, what fits your market. For us, it was boosting up the cherries for us. That is still our bread and butter for that. But now we feel on our farm, between my brother, my cousin, and I, the greatest commodity that we have is selling us and selling our story and selling how we got to the point that we are, and having that direct direct customer relationship with the guests that come into the winery. So kind of different approach for us up north.
Excellent. Sounds like different approaches for all three of you, but really finding a niche in your space within your market area and beyond has been really helpful. As a part of that, you know, you talk about making things work in your space and how you've created financial stability. Can you talk a little bit about how you business plan for your farm and your family, what that might look like, and who might be a part of that process for each of you? Do you assess at the end of every year leading into the next year? What does that look like? How do you make sure you're good to go for like 2022 or 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road in your space?
I can kick that one off, Kate, only because that's what I did today, is really kind of look at the year in review of 2020 and to figure out where we want to plan for 21. Business plan is, man, you got to look at your balance sheets quite often. I find that to be quite valuable for us. If you're in a partnership or in some sort of family role, meeting quite frequently to go over the numbers and go over your thoughts and, you know, where we're at as far as, you know, input costs go and projected returns. That's something that you need to revisit all the time. Acquiring finances hasn't typically been a struggle. There's a lot of financing out there. We personally use Greenstone as well as some local banks, but have also utilized some SBDC loans, as well as utilizing most recently utilizing the PPP loans that were brought through here on this last year. So it's revisiting, building those spreadsheets, building those. Every commodity we have, every variety of cherry we have has its own spreadsheet that we can figure out if we're making money that year or if we need to change something different. It really is diving in for us. You know, that's what helped us make the decision to remove ourselves from the livestock world and get into agritourism, is really diving into the numbers. And it was honestly cheaper to build a winery than it was for us to build up the cattle herd where it needed to be profitable. So diving into those numbers makes all the difference in the world.
I mean, I pretty much agree with what Greg's saying along the same lines. Just knowing your cost of productions and then going off of that to change if you need to change things going forward for the next year, whether it's once you fully understand what it costs you to do something, then you can see if you're better off to custom hire something or maybe purchase a piece of equipment to do something that you were having custom done. You got to know your costs and what's available to you to achieve your goals.
I'll agree with both of them. I mean, I really started looking at my operation and, like I said, switching away from some of the row crop stuff and doing double crop forages. I was getting a much higher return on investment. Cattle feed was eliminating some hay that I could then sell. So some of that stuff was huge. One thing I've been able to utilize, as I would consider myself a beginning farmer, with purchase a few years ago, was FSA loans, and then NRCS grants have been a huge help. And then I've also worked with Greenstone as well. You know, I think just being in connection with the right people and with financial people out there, you just have to have conversations with them all the time. It never hurts to call them and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing something. What do you think of this? And they can help you, you know, get your numbers around and get you in the right direction too.
Wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen. So I have a follow-up question for Charles and Greg, and John, don't hesitate to jump in here if you've got some experience as well. You know, when we talk about loans from folks like, or grant programs through NRCS, FSA, who who helped connect you to the right people to understand the programs that were available, how to apply, and who to reach to? And if you can you share who in your county or who in who in Michigan would be the appropriate contact person in that space? Just thinking about folks who are new, young, beginning farmers who are getting their feet underneath them, maybe tuning in to learn a little bit more about innovative financial resources. Can you share who you connected with and how those dots all aligned?
Yeah, for me, it was kind of different. I never reached out to anybody before, so a lot of it was honestly, I just started doing my own homework. I wanted to see what loans were out there. So I just reached out to the FSA office. I had heard about the beginning farmer loan. In my job off the farm as a seed sales rep, I talked to a lot of farmers every single day. So that was a huge benefit for me, just talking with some guys that have heard about different loans throughout the years. And so that's kind of where I got started. The FSA loan process, went through that. The NRCS stuff, I had just heard about the EQIP loans or EQIP grants, and I just contacted my local FSA office, got in contact with the NRCS person and then the engineer, and just went through that whole process. I mean, it's really stepping out and contacting them and saying, this is what I'm looking at doing. Does this match programs that you guys have? I've had assistance with putting a pasture fence, wells, automatic waterers, stuff like that. And then doing some conservation management on the farm too with the rolling hills. So a lot of it's just starting to go out there. You can access everything online and see kind of where the programs are. And then it's just huge to contact somebody.
Yeah, I'd kind of echo what Charles is saying there. We've had a different approach, I guess, when it came to wanting to know our numbers, and we really we struggled to find those because honestly, we wouldn't keep the greatest records, right? So it was a learning process for myself and for my family members as well. So we reached out. There's a local gentleman in the Grand Traverse area here named Jim Kassler. So he was instrumental in helping us dive into the numbers and how to record everything and really collect a lot of that enterprise data that you needed. So I'm not sure if he still runs it. Used to be up north, Ag Consulting, I believe, and I'm sure he's on the web or can be reached Facebook. So he was helpful, instrumental in that. Working with the group up here, and I'm not sure if it's a statewide program or if it's just a regional Grand Traverse thing, but it's SCORE. I'm not sure if anybody's heard of that. It's a group of business professionals, not just agriculture, but from all spectrums, from finance to hospitality to you name the industry. And they're retired, and their main job is to provide consulting for new businesses or old businesses. It is a free program offered up to anyone who is starting a business or entrepreneurs that want to build a business plan and how to do that. So that was a very helpful resource to that one. We have worked with the small business or the Northern Economics Alliance before in partnership with the small SBDC and the MEDC. So sorry for the acronyms here, but the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and Small Business Association as well. Found that to be very informative and very instrumental, I guess. And I keep using that word, but it really helps you. They're kind of like they're kind of like the cattle prod of the trying to get the animal up the chute or in the trailer. So they're the ones helping you and pushing you along the way and making sure that you're really serious about this. Local banks, we've used local banks. In Alden State Bank is who we locally bank with. Had a real good conversations with loan officers on that one, just getting that, developing that relationship. Again, the Greenstone plug, they are very good financing option for farms. And I'm actually kind of a little bit blessed, or maybe not so blessed, but my neighbor is an FSA loan officer. So we have a lot of conversations off the record books. So it's quite a blessed relationship I have with him, although not utilizing him, but having that conversation is a valuable piece. So I would suggest to anybody, interested in growing their farming program to reach out to anything and everyone that you can, that you think would help be valuable to your business and help you further along with your, what your goals are and how to meet them. It just doesn't have to always be in an agriculture setting either. There's a lot of outreach out there.
John, anything you want to add in that sector?
I mean, some of the things that I've done is always through FSA or through my local bank as far as getting funding and things like that.
Sounds like FSA has been pretty instrumental for most of you.
As well.
Okay. Excellent. NRCS, I'm not sure if we define it yet, but National Resource Conservation Service. FSA, Farm Service Agency, just for those of us who are tuning in. One thing that, I don't know if you gentlemen and Amber would agree, but one thing that I find overwhelming sometimes in the agriculture world in farming is that we do, to Greg's point, have so many acronyms. Farm Bureau is certainly guilty of that as well. We really like our acronyms. They're short, they're sweet, they roll off the tongue, and if you're in the group, you know, and if you're out of the group, you don't know. But that's part of why we want to have these conversations with folks and sort of help them connect the dots, because it's really easy for us to speak in our own lingo and then forget, like, oh shoot, not everyone knows what we're referencing in that conversation or in the opportunities that are presented. So I appreciate each of you spending some time to help break down who you've worked with and how you've connected, because it is different for folks in different areas of the state. To your point, Greg, not everyone has access to the same resources. From an economic development standpoint, there are some cool things available in the state of Michigan that I think some of our counterparts in other states may not have access to either. So just really great to keep that information and sort of content in the forefront of our minds and helping folks understand who we're referencing and how we connect with them. And I think it's great that you all took, somebody just took the initiative to say, hey, I'm going to do some research online, because decoding that alphabet soup and connecting with a human sometimes can be really challenging in those spaces, depending on where you're looking and whether or not information has been updated online. So kudos to all three of you for being willing to share some of your experiences in that space. I guess one question that it's sort of been rumbling around in the back of my mind this evening is, if you could, provide one piece of advice about something you've learned from your business planning tactics, what would that be for someone who's starting out, looking to formulate a business plan or how to best move forward? Maybe one lesson learned, and then one token piece of advice that you would provide someone looking to dip their toe into this space, or maybe even just diversify, like all three of you have mentioned has happened on your operations in recent years, to make sure that you're financially stable.
I would say you need to identify your goals early and work towards that. And you have to ask yourself if you're fully committed to do whatever it takes to get there. And whatever it is that you're thinking about doing, you need to find someone that is doing something similar to it or exactly what you want to do, and ask them questions and maybe shadow them for a while and see what challenges they're having or what they're, just follow what they've done and build off of that for yourself and put it into your own perspective. But just be a good listener and take notes and try to learn everything you can before you get your feet in too far.
Something I'll recommend and what I've done is I'm constantly trying to innovate on my farm, constantly trying to push the envelope, and try new techniques. But when I do try something new, I start out small. So if you learn your lesson, you either do it right or you do it wrong. But I'm at least experimenting and figuring out what I can do better year in, year out on the farm. But by starting small, I'm minimizing that risk and potentially learning a good lesson there that's making the farm better. And like John said, you gotta have commitment. There's days that I've gone through. I made a lot of investment into my farm, and I'm finally starting to see true returns in year 3. Years 1 and 2, you really start asking yourself, is this worth it? And like I said, finally this year, with growing a cattle herd myself, retaining heifers, not selling them, you have a lot of expenses. But once you start seeing those returns, you see all the benefits come back out. So.
Yeah, I'd kind of echo both Charles and John here, and kind of saying what John was saying. Identify your long-term goals as well as your short-term goals, and as Charles say, to really take a look at your operation. If you have to change and diversify and try something new on your own, I wouldn't be afraid to. And as a matter of fact, the best quote I think I've ever heard about starting something new is the start. So that is the hardest part of it. So once you've got that, once you've got that grit, once you've got that guts to move forward with it, it does get a little easier because now you're committed and now you're driven into that. I'd recommend finding some sort of relationship. It doesn't have to be in finance. It doesn't have to be in crop insurance. It doesn't have to be your local FSA office. So I'd recommend some sort of mentor relationship, some sort of consulting, somebody that just has got a like-minded business approach to whatever you're trying to do. Something you just feed off of. It might take more than one conversation. A couple months. It might just take a conversation quarterly, or you meet quarterly, or to have somebody to say, "Am I nuts really for thinking about doing this?" Or "What do you think of this idea?" Somebody totally removed maybe might be the best. Followed kind of that 90-mile rule. That might be the best. So somebody that's 90 miles to 100 miles away from you and a little less removed from the atmosphere that you're in, and maybe the climate for that matter as well. So I value the relationships I have with other farmers. Shameless plug for Michigan Farm Bureau, because we've gotten to know a lot of people through Michigan Farm Bureau and developed a lot of relationships. So that is worth its weight in gold, not to have that type of relationship. So just having that trust, that group around you, whether you're in a partnership or whether you're a sole proprietor, just having somebody to bounce ideas off and to call each other crazy once in a while.
Love it, Greg. Appreciate that. Appreciate all 3 of your responses to that question. Just, the experiences are so different and robust amongst the group here this evening, and we appreciate your willingness to share those. You may think that I'm trying to wrap up, but I'm actually not quite done asking you all questions yet. I promise it'll be relatively painless, but we do have a question about what publications, apps, or tools do you all use to track and potentially improve your cost of production?
Everything I have runs through QuickBooks, and I have Excel spreadsheets on the different businesses or different internal workings that I have, each crop and straw, hay, and different things, trying to track that, your production versus your actual outcome. But QuickBooks is the best tool I've had. That it clears up a lot of things. You can look back and see what you've done and know right away, as long as you enter everything properly.
Yeah, that's what John and I use, kind of the same thing there. Excel and QuickBooks is another one. Of course, all the publications we use, Fruit Grower News and Good Fruit Grower, that kind of thing. Those are nice articles to jump in on. We use the Ag Verdict program through Wilbur Ellis just for simple mapping, record keeping, and and I know there's other programs out there, but the one that I'm comfortable with is Ag Verdict, where I can track hours of employees and literally how many times we cut the grass in the orchard. So, and even it dials it down to how much wear and tear is on the machine, and you input that cost. You don't, the app does not do that for you. This is all, you still have to do your homework, I guess. What I'm saying on that. So those are the tools we use. Excel is awesome once you figure it out. It's quite a large program there to utilize your numbers, and it actually quite quickly once you get familiar with it.
Yeah, I use Excel quite a bit for cow production records, crop production records. On the crop side, I use like Climate Field View, and then my company has one called Advantage Acres. So I do some of that stuff on the planning side, mapping out some crop rotation stuff. A lot of different planning that I can play around in the wintertime before we get into summer and start having, when we're a lot busier. So.
Something I would add, I guess I was just thinking about it, that we've implemented in the last 2 years pretty heavily is on our crop side, we use My John Deere for all our auto steer, and all of our field passes are saved in there, and what we did and how long it took. And, we can put that over on our yield history then and use it with soil types. I mean, there's just endless amounts of information there that you can look at and see. One thing that stood out for me, just a little quick story, is we had a cornfield that was sugar beets previous, and through the yield map, we could see every land that we opened in the sugar beet field the year previous. So it's not something that we're gonna like go out and change real quick, but it just gives you some insight that, hey, something's happening, and I can see it now because of how we track everything.
Excellent points, gentlemen. Thank you for sharing. Another question, we've sort of answered in bits and pieces, but I don't know that we've gotten to the root of this question. So I'll ask it, and then you can tell me whether or not you agree that I asked for further clarification. But, who's on your farm team? So when it comes to making decisions on farm, who do you go to? Maybe it's just a family friend or one of those acquaintances you've met through programs available through Farm Bureau or other like-minded organizations. You talk a little bit about loan officers potentially, but who's on your team and why are they there? Why are they important to each of you and to your farms?
I guess I can start out that one. So I'd probably say my number one is my dad. Not only do I rely on his farming experience, and we share equipment and time and labor between each other and help each other out on our own operations. But I'm maybe lucky in this aspect that he's also my tax preparer. And so him and I constantly are having conversations about whether it's a land purchase, equipment purchase, ways to come out right at the end of the year. I think that's a big factor. I mean, honestly, I think maybe this is a broad answer to that question, but everyone and is on my team is the way I look at it. I'm on the seed side, so I'm constantly asking my agronomist seed questions. Our local elevator and co-op constantly asking fertilizer and chemical questions, just trying to be as efficient as possible. And then working with your loan officers too, if there's an opportunity to pick up a piece of ground or a piece of equipment and you need to be able to finance it, starting to work through some of those numbers and see if that is a good decision at that time, or if you should hold off and things like that.
for myself, I mean, I have a large peer group that I talk to on a pretty much a daily basis, and a lot of them are people that the older gentlemen that I've rented land from and stuff that have been through the gamut and been in the in and outs, and you can have an idea or a question or something and say, what do you think of this? And they'll say, well, back in the 70s, we did that and it worked or it didn't work, you know, and you can make your own assumption from there and see if it's going to be something you want to do. Beside that, I work very closely with my brother who takes care of all our mechanics and whatnot. I don't have to deal with basically with that at all. So he takes care of all of that. You know, we have our agronomists. I have this past year, I hired a sort of a farm manager. He's working into it as far as taking care of the crop side with spraying and planting recommendations, and working very close with soil tests. And we're starting to do some variable rate seeding. You know, we've done fertilizer in the past, but we're starting to do it also with planting. You know, changing things field to field. So, and then he works with the agronomists uptown at the co-op and at Nutrien, and just a combination of everyone, and also, you know, other farmers in the area that you look up to or respect. They always have very good ideas and what you should do. You know, there's a little bit of competition here and there, but at the end of the day, we're all kind of in it together, and you know, it provides some feedback, I guess, for your area to know how to handle certain situations. But just aligning yourself with successful people in general will generally give you better answers to deal with problems that come your way.
Yeah, and I would agree totally with what John and Charles have said. You're lean on your elders a little bit. I work in a partnership with my brother and my cousin, and we've purchased it from my dad and his cousin. So we're constantly leaning upon, you know, those two for, you know, historical advice. That's always a good one. That the cherry industry it changes, but it never has changed, kind of thing. So it's nice to have some consistency there and historical data. You know, for my winery is going to be my customers. I mean, that's the direct line there of how we can improve, and you know, what else can we offer and what else can we do on that one. I would be reluctant to say I don't really rely upon my wife's advice by quite a bit from not only consumer standpoint, but from a mental standpoint, maybe that might be more accurate for me. So it's a huge help with that relationship there. Your CPA, yeah, your tax planner, there's, you know, talking to them every quarter or when you're looking at major purchases, that's always good to have. We use a integrated pest management system. So we hire a scout that goes out and looks at our orchards, sees what kind of disease and pests and fungi that are out there that we need to either be prepared for or combat, either one of those. So having that tight relationship with that, somebody who knows your fields, knows the boundaries, knows the hot spots, knows where for us, wind is a big one. So where's that airflow going to go through to dry out the fruit? Where's it not? And where's the pest going to gather? Speak with your processors, who's buying your product. I would recommend having a strong relationship with that, whether it is through a co-op or an elevator. For us, it's a cherry processor. So having that open-ended communication with what you want to do next year and what they might want to do with you. So just having a strong fear.
Excellent. Thanks so much for those really robust answers to that question. It's not always an easy one to answer, and so I appreciate all of you bearing with me there, but really makes an impact, right? Because there are just so many moving parts and pieces on any farm to help in that decision-making process, but also just to help you at year end in trying to figure out how we do things next year and what did we learn this year and project into the future. It's a process. So appreciate each of you sharing your own experiences in those spaces. I've got one question left for you. And really, it's a pretty broad question, but if there's one piece of sage advice that you would give anyone who's looking at 2022 and saying, man, I don't know, how do we get there? What would it be from your personal perspectives?
Well, yeah, for one word advice or one phrase would be, I said it earlier, the hardest thing about starting something is the start. So having that gumption to get it going. And then after that, I would just recommend tell your story, tell who you want to do, or what you want to do with who will ever listen to you. And if you use the kind of the playbook there, you just, the more you say it, the more you believe it, I guess. And to never lose that drive, and always have your short-term, end-term goals, and always figure out where's your time best spent as well. So you can be telling the wrong person everything you want to do, but if this doesn't do any good, then like John said, you surround yourself with good business people, and that'll help solve the issue of somebody who won't listen to you.
I think to get through to, if you're just talking about getting through another year, you just keep your head down and work and continue to try to make good decisions, the best educated ones that you can, and trust yourself and trust your gut, and just keep doing what you're doing. And right now it's tough to make some decisions because you're with the government and COVID and all these other factors we have involved. It's just very, very volatile out there. So you just got to make good informed decisions and keep pulling your weight.
Yeah, I think my word of advice would be open to opportunities. You never know what is going to happen tomorrow, and there might be an opportunity that presents it, and it might be a leap of faith, but if there is an opportunity, go with it. And then be willing to adapt. We can have the best plans. We're in ag, but Mother Nature can really throw some curveballs at us, and so we have to be able to adapt and just keep moving forward.
Good answer.
Mother Nature plays such a large role in what we do and love, doesn't it? And is not at all in our control. But I think 2020 has proved that there's lots of lessons in life, and there are many things that we can't control individually as much as we'd like to. So we do the best with what we've got, and hope that we can make it through to that next incremental goal. To your point to this evening, gentlemen, making hay while the sun shines, making lemonade out of lemons, and doing our best to support one another along the way, right? So if that's reaching out to a friend or an acquaintance, talking to a family member, or any of those people on your farm team about how we can make the best decisions to set us up for short and long-term success, then that's a great space to be in. Know that I appreciate all three of you. Thank you so much for your time and your willingness to share your experiences with your peers. Really looking forward to and seeing the impact of this live panel in recorded format as we share it with folks throughout the countryside, and traversing through the rest of the content. So we have 5 mini sessions coming up over the next 5 weeks that will sort of take a deeper dive into a few things, primarily business planning, as we talked about this evening, some financial resources and some non-traditional resources, some tips and tricks for grant and loan applications, and then also some of that decoding of USDA-based resources. So there are lots of conversations here about the U.S. Department of Agriculture and accompanying opportunities or programs for financial support or otherwise on farms. So we'll take a deeper dive there, and those folks will come back to do a live panel-based experience with us as well, each of the mini session presenters, to sort of round out the series. So looking forward to the next few weeks of content. Very much so appreciate all of you sharing your experiences and appreciate Greenstone's partnership in helping to promote and provide content for the series itself. Thank you and have a lovely evening.